Claude is now a very serious contender.
Every time the stock market goes down, Bitcoin goes down.
His comms team was like, Lord,
Take his phone away from him now.
mercy. He's not in prison. He's not facing any charges.
I'm not sending anything back. It ends here. Yo, everyone, welcome back. It's brand new Techish. It is me, Michael, and I'm joined once more with the amazing
Abadesi of Hustle Proof.
Okay, let's get diving into the main story. Everyone's portfolio is in the mud. Stocks have collapsed. No, I'm just joking. Mine's all right. But I think the reason why I say mine's all right is
fat cat baller.
Fat cat baller. No, I think I'm just, if you were primarily invested in index funds, you probably saw like a 2% drop. But if you were somebody who was clever enough to think you could pick individual stocks, some of your stock probably did get hit. A lot of these tech stocks are down 10%, 15%. Salesforce is down 26% year to date, which is amazing. And the origin of it all seems to be because Anthropic released this new tool called Claude Cowork. So they've already got Claude Code, which is a way to kind of help developers code with ease. I've just started playing around with it now. Actually, I'm a bit slow to the game. But Claude Cowork essentially are these agentic plugins that can help you do automations on workflows to do with legal, to do with sales. For example, it could do prospect research, automate CRM entries, etc. So this has now spooked the market because essentially AI is now in a position where why would you go to a Salesforce when you can build tools internally with ease? Why would you go to a HubSpot, for example, where certain companies will think we might as well just kind of do it internally? Or the other thing is the SaaS model is very, very much based on seats, so like human seats.
Yes.
So forget even the idea of like, yo, we're going to build it internally. If I now have 10 employees that can do the work of 100, that now reduces the seat-based revenue model of these SaaS tools and these SaaS products that are worth a bunch of money. So that's hit a lot of people's portfolios primarily. I think it will bounce back. What say you? Do you think there is, well, one on the portfolio, hopefully yours is okay. We can go into that if you're willing to do that. But the other thing I would say is, what's your perspective on all this? Do you think it's a bit of a hoopla, like people shouldn't be worried that SaaS as a business category will be damaged? Or do you think, no, actually AI will be the thing that gets us past this intermediary period where I give my credit card to somebody and they give me software that I can rent? Like, is software just like destined to just be this free thing that we all can just build with ease?
Kazaa, Shazam, bring it back. I think maybe SaaS pricing was due a reckoning. Is that controversial? Is that controversial?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, anyone that's worked in a software company will know that there are like incredible economies of scale. Don't get me wrong, R&D is expensive, data centers are expensive. I understand that. But at the same time, does the seat-based pricing model work? And I know that the way a lot of these software tools were doing teams pricing, users pricing, don't get me wrong, I love tools like Canva, I love tools like Notion, but one day you shared a presentation with someone, you don't realize until you're looking at your billing invoice later that they were like added to your team and you've been paying like X more dollars or pounds a month. And you're like, hang on a minute. And it's not like they're proactively asking me to check, how many members in my team are given pro access or whatever. So I get it, right? Like I'm a business owner myself, profit's important, but it does feel like SaaS pricing was long overdue, some kind of reset, some kind of reckoning. And it's just ironic that it's AI that's pushing that. I mean, what do you think about seat-based pricing? Do you think it's fair to the consumer? It makes sense?
I mean, I think it was a masterstroke to implement it because it did make sense. Like, how do you have flexibility in pricing? Like, why should I charge Deloitte the same that I'm charging a 2-person startup, right? So I understand why they implemented it. I just think in general, there was a 10-year bull run on SaaS. If you were a VC and you invested in SaaS, if you were a public market investor and you invested in SaaS, you couldn't really lose. And I don't think it's going to go away at all. I think it will still be around. People are still going to want tools that are built securely, are updated. Like not every company is going to internally be able to build their own, CRM that can scale up to a bunch of users. I don't think we're there just yet. But it is a hair trim on their business. It is, because some companies will try and do that and teams will be smaller potentially. And even from a perspective of negotiation, if you know that I could potentially just clone your tool internally and build a simple version of it, it gives me a bit more buyer power, right? Like even if I won't do it. So yeah, I think a justified hair trim, it's not necessarily going to be the kind of the money tree that it once was. The other thing that I would say is these are tools that nobody has any fondness for. Like who sits there and thinks Salesforce, what a product? Salesforce, Adobe. I'm so glad when I see that money go out of my business account. It's not great. Like they make it hard to cancel. They have these really aggressive sales agents. Like I had a Heroku, which was like the app that I was using to kind of host my different apps. They got acquired by Salesforce, and I noticed the deterioration of like of the consumer experiences. Pricing went
Mm,
up, the free stuff got cancelled.
yeah.
They were overcharging me. Listen, sad day for them, but not for me. I couldn't care less.
It's interesting though because yeah, on that idea of like, would you miss it? Would you miss the software? A lot of the most, I mean, I just find this trend where it's like a lot of the most dominant enterprise software have a horrible user experience. It's mind-boggling to me how some of these companies end up being like the dominant I mean, I think one example that comes to mind is like HR software, HR systems. Like, so few of the dominant ones make sense, like are
Hmm.
intuitive for the user journey. And, the list goes on, like video conferencing tools. As you click through and try and create a meeting or do anything, you're like, was any designer involved in this process at all?
Right.
It almost feels like features and buttons were built, based on committee or votes. And it's so painful. And then you have, you know, workers who now have access to tools, whether that's Claude, whether that's whatever, where they're like, I could literally vibe code a better version of this, something that makes sense to me, to my
Hmm.
team in terms of our intuition and how we do things. And what would stop them from kind of going, I'm not using this CRM anymore. Here's a vibe coded version that I've done
Yeah.
that works so much better. I'm not using this tool anymore. But what I think is really interesting is software has been able to entrench itself at enterprise level. I'm not talking about
Yeah.
small businesses. I'm not talking about
Yep.
agile
Yep.
companies at enterprise level because of the regulations around procurement, IT, security. And this is what I always talk about in terms of that time lag that we think about in economics. There's the change, and then there's when the change actually takes effect. And as good as it is to say, theoretically, we could vibe code an alternative HR system, recruitment tool, CRM. The reality is, will your company's IT systems let you use that?
Yeah.
Like, is that in line with what you can do with your data protection, with your this, where you're that? So it's hard to gauge how, to your point, real the threat is just from like a boring enterprise IT security data level as well.
Yeah, just connecting the thread on everything you said there because it was very insightful. It's like the reason why the UI is so terrible is because of the fact the products have a stickiness within these companies. So, like, if you get a HR recruitment software inside a company, that's very hard to change. All of your candidates are there. You've
Yes.
trained the team. You've plowed in money. So, why, as a product, would the company work on making the usability super duper like good? Because their moat is not the product. Their moat is we have got inbuilt contracts, recurring contracts, and we're stuck,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sticky basically, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to quickly discuss is Bitcoin, everyone's favorite asset. So
Lols.
BTC, I haven't owned any crypto for maybe 2-3 years,
Not even
and
Acoin? Acorn coin?
not
Wow.
even the Abercoin that's soon to come out, not even Trump coin.
Melania coin?
I don't invest in things unless there's a thesis that I can believe in, to some sort of underlying thesis. Like, okay, I might buy Google because I feel like Gemini now is going to catch up and overtake ChatGPT, for example. That's a thesis. If I see that Gemini is struggling, I will probably sell Google, right? That's one factor in how you can make a decision when investing in certain asset classes. And Bitcoin to me was always, it's a hedge against fiat. It's meant to be uncorrelated to the stock market. It's something to have if things go to ish. But what happens with Bitcoin is that every time the stock market goes down, Bitcoin goes down. Every time tech gets hurt, Bitcoin gets hurt. So it's not completely uncorrelated. So I don't know why anybody really owns this anymore, besides the fact they think the price will go up. Like, and that's it. Like, and you're looking for the greater fall. And Bitcoin has had a lot of mainstream adoption. There's lots of Bitcoin ETFs, lots of banks that can now offer you Bitcoin, for example, as an
Yeah.
investment asset. And even still, the price has collapsed. So if you're a crypto bullish person, I don't know, man, leave us a comment. Like, why do you still own Bitcoin? What is your thesis? Because I'm genuinely confused.
Can I give you a controversial thesis?
Yeah, go on, shoot. Let's go. You might convince me. Let's do it.
Lindy effect.
Okay.
The things that have existed a long time are more likely to like keep existing, right? Okay. I've articulated quite badly.
No, I
Organized
get it.
crime.
Yep.
There's always been a version of mafia, organized crime, human trafficking, drugs, cartels, you name it. It's not going anywhere. If anything, with the climate crisis, etc., there's going to be like more demand for illicit groups to
Right.
facilitate movement across the globe. As the world becomes increasingly depressed, stressed, lonely, there'll be more demand for drugs, which are still illegal. And, whether they like to say it or not, proponents of Web3, crypto is very useful for the gray economy and for
Yeah.
subversive groups of people that need to move capital in quite large amounts across different parts of the world. So I think while there's organized crime, there'll always be a use case for Bitcoin. Now, whether you want to invest in that and support that, but that's a thesis for it. What do you think?
I disagree because I think Bitcoin,
Oh.
I think initially people believed that, but I saw a documentary where the FBI was like, we love Bitcoin because Bitcoin is completely traceable. On the blockchain, I can see like where everything is, where everything goes. So that use case, I'm not so sure. I mean, there might be other kind of crypto assets that are kind of less traceable, more privacy first, but that doesn't necessarily correlate to Bitcoin being the thing because Bitcoin is the granddaddy and it's the technology, it's the technology. So I'm not sure on that. And if, when you mention Lindy, I'm like, there's nothing more Lindy than gold. Gold's been around for thousands of years. It's been a currency for thousands of years. So if you're going to
Mm.
say, let me go Lindy, you might as well go to the oldest thing in the game right now, which is gold. And that's why gold surged, because gold did what Bitcoin was meant to do, which is we're scared.
Gold's been historically volatile in the midterm past.
I mean, gold hasn't done what it's meant to have done. People were convinced that gold should have gone up. I saw a tweet where somebody said this person sold their index fund, their S&P 500 stuff for about 10 years and put it all into gold. And he spent the last 10 years stressed because he believed that S&P 500 was greatly overvalued
Mm.
and that gold would shoot to the moon. And eventually it did, but it was 10 years late. And actually the person was very
Mm.
stressed out because they missed a lot of gains in the market. So
Yeah.
they were like, was it worthwhile doing that trade? Because you could have just had 10 years of chillaxing. Anyways, I don't know. Listen, everyone, this
We'll
is not
see.
financial advice. This is
Absolutely not.
just talking my book.
Cannot stress that enough.
Yeah, but I'm just like, when you think about how much effort and venture capital has gone into Web3, what have we got here? I don't know a single thing beyond Kalshi and Polymarket and these gambling platforms that, has made any difference in the world, me personally. But
But
anyways, that
but
might be my
but what's
myopic
the
view.
utility? Is the utility in the hype or in the long term? Because there's always something new that's hyped, right? And I feel that like VC is an industry that it's a hype machine. And sometimes the hype is enough. Sometimes the hype is enough for you to raise your next round or attract, the hottest innovators to offer you, participation in their fundraising round. Like, I just think philosophically, I'm less convinced that venture in particular, broad strokes speaking, is about that real world impact. I don't know, like, I just feel like we've been doing this show for so long. I think it is just about like creating the hype, building the hype, capitalizing on the hype, and then moving on to the next thing that's hype.
That's a massive part of it. But what I will say is I interact with products that were daily that were venture backed. I get them at Uber, you might get an Airbnb, you use WhatsApp. These are all venture backed products, right? But with
Mm.
crypto, me and you, as people who are relatively, tech savvy, we don't interact with crypto and it
I
has
think
no
that's
material impact on, I don't know. Um, maybe you're on Silk Road part 2 doing your thing. I don't know. I'm not trying to speak for Abadesi, right? But anyways,
it's how I
so
accept my OnlyFans payments.
something from something from the old school. So TV ads normally are not necessarily kind of what we discuss here, but the Super Bowl ads will make a difference. And in the tech world, Anthropic, who are Claude creators, which we had discussed
Mm.
earlier, they have made a Super Bowl ad taking shots at ChatGPT.
So, what do you think?
Absolutely. That's such a fun and creative business idea. You've got something really special here. Getting started can feel daunting. I can make a step-by-step mini business plan. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Here's some steps you can take. 1. Research. Really get to know your audience. 2. Think of a catchy name and start your social presence early. 3. New businesses often struggle with cash flow, so try quick dash payday loans because girl bosses need CEO money quick. 400% APR rates may vary, possibly doubling or tripling without notice.
What?
Would you like to make a quick credit check?
What's the difference between me and you? Me and you, me and you, me and you.
So yeah, Sam Altman straight away tweeted and said, this is a dishonest video. While it was humorous, that we're always going to do ads in a way where it just allows us to support our free consumers. Claude is just kind of supporting rich people who can pay for expensive subscriptions. Do you think that's how Sam Altman should have responded? Or do you think he just
His comms team was like, Lord
take his
have
phone away from him now?
mercy. Lord have mercy. Do you know what? Like, it's so interesting because when you're observing a debate or like observing a conflict, the person who's defensive always looks the weakest.
100%.
Right? Is when someone's like, no, but, no, but, no, but. And that's why I think sometimes, the best strategy as far as comms and PR is almost to say nothing. Because when you come back with a message that feels like defensive or accusatory, it makes people distrust you or makes people feel like, the first message was right. I mean, he's probably just annoyed that they've done this. I mean, we've seen the ChatGPT adverts around London and stuff like that. Like they were just like a use case advert, like a photo of someone with like their friends, like, oh, where should we go? What should we do? Which is like not necessarily groundbreaking. And then Anthropic have come out with something that's quite tongue in cheek, that's capturing the zeitgeist. But I think it's deeper than that. I think it goes back to what you were saying in the first story about the markets and Claude's impact, and basically the fact that Claude is now a very serious contender in the Gen AI space. More and more people are talking about the value they find in Claude in terms of analyzing data, in terms of coding with them. And no one's saying those things about OpenAI. Now, OpenAI wanted to position itself probably as an enterprise player, right? Like that's what the Microsoft partnership was all about. They see themselves as the future of the workplace. If we look at how 2026 is going so far, Anthropic is beating them on every front. Like when I speak to people who are in business, the tool that they're finding the most value from, it's not OpenAI, it's Claude.
I mean, I think that's clarify. Obviously, OpenAI's, user data, not user data, the amount of users they have is far, far more than Claude. But what you are saying is that when you talk to tech people, when you talk to people who are workers, you're hearing Claude more and more often, far more than than you're hearing ChatGPT. And
the real value in software subscriptions, back to the last story, is not just the B2C model, but businesses, like which enterprises are actually going to, I have 100,000 employees. This is the tool that we've chosen to invest in. So yeah, it's just interesting to think about that. What did you think?
Yeah, and
Would
also
you cut back?
You're right. You know what I kept thinking about when you were talking about like the person who looks the weakest? The person who unfortunately is really good at this is Trump. Like he never apologizes. He never backs down. He never apologizes. And unfortunately, there's a flaw in the human brain that reads that as strength. The person who comes out and says, listen, I'm devastated. I'm so sorry. Like, even though people want that, people look at that as like, you're weak. And then the people that are really trying to cancel them are just like, yeah, there's blood in the water. Let's not back down here. So Sam, his PR comms team should have just taken his phone and said, listen, don't do that. And I think that's probably the arrogance of, the tech Illuminati, in the sense that like they don't believe that they need PR people. They believe in this whole Elon thing of like, I can just go direct to the people, when it's like, well, actually, no, there was a reason why the PR kind of world worked and made a lot of money, because they did know how to control your image. I always think of Tom Cruise and how when he fired his PR person, that's when the whole Scientology, Katie Holmes, he was looking a bit mad. But before then, Tom Cruise, he was unimpeachable. He sold movies like nothing. And there was a window where it was kind of shaky because he believed he could go direct to the consumer, go to Oprah and say whatever he wanted. That's a side tangent. But yeah, I think the other point about going for enterprise, me and you built our careers of doing B2B. Like there was a lot of people who were trying to do community and, women in tech, black people in tech, this in tech kind of thing. And a lot of them couldn't figure out how to make it work because they were trying to maybe sell tickets to events. Maybe they were trying to sell products to the subscriptions or whatever, right? Whereas me and you were like, we're going to go to the businesses and they're going to cut a check. 10, 20, 30K, who knows? You know what I'm saying? I'm not quoting real numbers here, but hypothetically speaking. And that was able to subsidize. And that was able, I mean, if we had that, I'll be gone. And that was able to subsidize the rest of the kind of community, right? So Anthropic going for enterprise is smart. That's where the money is. Companies will cut a check. If you can promise to help a company be 10% more efficient, you will capture a lot of those gains. Really and truly, ChatGPT is kind of like an unlicensed, unofficial therapist, people getting recipes, people kind of like getting training programs, which is all great, don't get it twisted. But you know what? Anthropic is not, it's not an unenviable position. I wouldn't mind to be in that position of being like, we're going to capture enterprise way before ChatGPT or OpenAI's even woken up to it. So smart on them. And also, listen, play to your strengths. And also, I think they are trying to position themselves as Mac. And the old adverts of like Mac versus PC. Because they will do things like, they will do merch, they'll do hats, they will do like a coffee shop pop-up. And even the aesthetic of the website, the font, the colors, like they're trying to be the AI bot of taste. And very clever, very clever. Shout out to them.
Very smart.
The other thing that, last point, but not least, I think the other thing that triggered Sam Altman is not just the ad, it's also the fact that it was taking the piss out of the chirpy nature of ChatGPT. Like, listen, I don't need to be told how amazing I am. The first time was fine. Michael, that's so insightful. That's not great. That's insightful, maximum impact. Do you want me to go help? It's like, relax, okay.
They don't have enough women on their engineering team or something, because I think they probably figured at some point in the design that users are egocentric. So if they stoke the ego, it will make the product sticky. But one, that's like very American, and two, a bit patriarchal. Like, I don't know. Like,
You think it's patriarchal? What
You're
you
so
think
clever.
the
You're so smart. I don't
you think
know.
the bot is mimicking a woman, basically praising a man's
There's something
ego.
a bit subservient about it. I don't know.
Right? Yeah.
It's a bit Emperor's New Clothes. Like, yes sir, yes sir.
Someone should do a
full,
PhD on
sir.
that. Someone should do a PhD
Someone
on that.
probably is. Can I ask as well, like, what do you
Yeah,
think
go on.
about this, the rant mentioning serving rich people with expensive subscriptions?
I think when
Do you
you
feel like that's a shot fired that kind of makes sense? Or is that a bit like pot
no,
calling the kettle black?
I
That's a bit of a
think
racist statement.
I think when you have a strategy that you've gone down, you try to convince yourself of it. And I think he believes that he's democratizing access to these tools. So we need to give
Another startup
ads.
says democratizing.
Yeah, I know.
Blow
But
my
this is
head
the
off.
philosophy of it, right? Which is like, listen, we want to offer it to be as cheap and as free as possible. And the way to
Yeah.
do that is to subsidize it with ads. I mean, the open internet wouldn't work without ads. Websites all use ads,
Yeah.
etc. So I think he's throwing a jab at what I consider to be a legitimate business model. I mean, to be honest, Anthropic is like $17 a month to use it as the kind of normal tier. And then
Yeah.
the max tier you can get on Claude Code is like £200 a month. Now, if you're an employee or running a small business, I'm not calling that serving rich people. Like, a small business can pay for that. So like, I don't know where he's going. I think he's just hurt and he's just clamoring for something to say.
Do you know what this reminds me of? Did you ever watch? I don't think you've watched it. HBO Silicon Valley.
I haven't, no. I think we've had
so-
this conversation about 25 times.
I know, but I thought you'd have
I need to
watched
watch it
it
one
by
day.
now. So
And
there's
you're
like
on
a
the payroll.
fictional Google on it, and then their CEO is like Gavin Belson, and one of their employees leaves to start a rival product, and he's really annoyed because they're getting a lot of heat and like winning all these awards and raising all this funding, and basically they're beating him to market with an AI tool, interestingly enough. And he has this rant where he's like, I just don't want to live in a world where someone is making the world a better place better than me. And it's like one of the best lines
line.
in the show. And I just get that vibe, you know? It's like, I don't want to live in a world where someone's
You know
making the world a better place better than
Ironically,
me.
Sam Altman said that about Elon. He said Elon Musk wants to save the world, but only if he does it, basically. And that's when they were having their falling out because he was suing, which is true. Because do you remember when there was those little kids that were lost in like some cave in Thailand? And then like
of course.
some guy rescued them after Elon was like, I'm gonna come help. And then he started
He
accusing
said
the
a
guy of being a
homophobic
pedophile.
thing about them.
No, he said he
pedophile.
accused the guy of being a pedophile. And I was like, you really want to save them as long as it's you that's saving them. And that's a very astute writing there from that show Silicon Valley, which I will watch
But
one day.
and it's a similar vibe here. Like, one AI to rule them all, and it has to be mine. But
Let's
it's
do one
interesting because
short-
as well, like,
Go on.
sorry, last thing I was going to say was there's obviously the massive fallout that occurred. Will it be like November 2024? That short period of time where Sam Altman was ousted from
Yes.
OpenAI and came back
Yes.
again. And then a lot of speculation about what happened. There was a bit of a coup to push him out, a bit of a coup to bring him back. There are a lot of disparate accounts of what his true character is like. Some of the people that wanted him out said that he was taking the organization away from what it's supposed to be. And some of those people have gone on to make their own open source AI company, right? Like a more transparent one. The name escapes me now. I'm sure we can find it and put it in the show notes. But it's just interesting to think back to that period of time with the context of this rant and think about some of the criticisms that people were making about, you know, he's too commercially minded. It's too much about ego. It's too much about him being like the billionaire founder and not about our original values and mission. So yeah, I was just thinking about
I've got
this and that.
I've got the book Empire of AI. I haven't finished it yet, and essentially it's written by journalist Karen Ho. I'll put the name in the show notes. And the first opening chapter is about him being fired by his board, and they fired him primarily because he was dishonest. He wouldn't tell them what was really going on, and then he also had investments that were kind of competitive with OpenAI or would somehow down the line lead to a conflict of interest, and he wouldn't really say. So they let him go because of that. But then there was an employee revolt because everyone loved him, so that the board had to back down. But the board were like, "We're doing our
Cult of
duty
the
according to the
leader.
bylaws." Cult of the leader. But listen, sometimes that happens. People love their bosses if they feel like I joined this company because of this person. Like if I joined, I don't know, whatever company, like I can't think of an example because there's no one that I worship like that. But if I went to work for Jack Dorsey and then Jack Dorsey got fired, I'm going to be like, well, I came here because I wanted to work with Jack Dorsey, right? Anyways, let's do a quick, interesting story. Then we'll go to our Patreon segment where we'll get real spicy. You ever Google yourself and think, wait, why does the internet know where I live? That's data brokers for you. These companies legally collect and sell your personal info, your name, address, phone number, even your relatives' names, and anyone with a credit card can buy it. That's why I use Delete Me. It's a hands-free service that finds your personal data across hundreds of data brokers and people search sites and gets it down. And here's why I rate them. 1, they've been doing this for over 15 years. And they're the leading experts in personal data removal. 2, they actually verify your data before submitting removal, so you're not exposing yourself even more. And 3, you can talk to real privacy advisors when you need help, not some faceless bot. And it's not just for individuals, it's perfect for businesses as well. If your employees' data is floating around online, that's a serious security risk. Delete Me helps reduce that exposure before it becomes a problem. So yeah, if you care about privacy at home and at work, it's a no-brainer. Get 20% off at joindeleteme.com/techish with the promo code Techish. That's TECHISH. That's joindeleteme.com/techish, code Techish. Protect your people, protect your data. The link is in the show notes. You flagged up this story about how Pinterest fired some of their employees because they were tracking the layoffs at the company. Very interesting. What was going down?
Okay, so as I understand it, this is a story that I picked up on BBC News, actually.
Shout out to the B.
Yeah, so as we've spoken about, we're in year 4 or 5 of layoff season.
Yeah.
And understandably, staff are kind of cluing up a little bit in terms of how to prepare for layoffs and how to support each other, give people a heads up. We don't want any more of these logging onto a Zoom call with 500 other people only to learn we no longer have a job, insurance, or healthcare. But yeah, so Pinterest CEO said in an email that he was doubling down on an AI forward approach. And would be cutting jobs. So 2 engineers in the company wrote custom scripts where they were basically trying to like scrape which Slack accounts had been deactivated and other indicators of like the list of layoffs, basically to just understand if they'd be on that list and tell their friends and stuff like that. Unfortunately, they were caught and were subsequently fired. The point of the script was really just to look out for themselves and look out for each other. And unfortunately, that act of, I guess, intended kindness resulted in them losing their jobs.
Rest in peace to those guys. I saw a TikTok where somebody was saying how in sales it's pretty common that you just go into the Slack channel and people are just gone because obviously sales are so cutthroat and the churn is insane, right? So we are now in a position where tech workers are in that sort of precarious position that salespeople were historically because it was so performance-based that like you could churn quite quickly. So I commend those people, man. It's quite an inventive use of your engineering abilities to say like, listen, if you're not in a Slack, then I know that you're gone, right? And why is it
or
that
deactivated
or deactivated? But why is it that like, you know, companies are just not transparent about who? I guess when you do so much layoffs, you cannot go through and say this person's not here, that person. You just got to kind of keep it pushing.
It's kind of ironic as well because if you say you have an AI forward approach, you're going to be encouraging people to use AI tools on what is essentially private data. But the reason that they got fired, according to the spokesperson of Pinterest, was that they were improperly accessing confidential company information. But like the same AI tools that you're going to be asking people to use will probably be scraping Slack and other shared directories and stuff like that, you know? So it's interesting.
The other thing is that I'm sure this tool, they wanted to clamp down on it because you could probably maybe see like trends in terms of like the layoffs. Like you can see like, is it growing month on month? Yeah, that part too. You could look at who's been laid off, what departments have been laid off. Yeah, what's their identity? Is it growing? Is there growth in this? You know what I mean? Like this is kind of data that companies just would not want out there because it would destroy morale. And also it might make you believe as an employee that, well, I'm surely next because I can see here that they fired 5% of the salespeople or 5% of the engineering team every month for the last year. Yeah, shout out to those people. Hopefully they'll land on their feet. I just hate when companies are that sensitive.
Doesn't it also say something about how rubbish organizations have been with internal comms around layoffs? Like there's a lot of 100%. Secrecy around it and people just want certainty. They want to know if their team is impacted. They want to know if their managers are impacted. They want to know if the teams and departments that they collaborate with most closely are impacted. What a lot of organizations do now is they're doing hush-hush layoffs. So you don't even know who's gone until they're contractually released to tell you goodness knows how much later down the line on another platform. So I think it shows how in the dark employees are left and how it's impacting their trust, their morale, and their productivity. And there's a lesson here, right? If organizations are willing to just be more transparent, engineers aren't going to be using your company time to try and build scripts that show them whose accounts are deactivated on Slack so they can stay up to date and tell their teammates. They're going to be doing their actual job.
Yeah. Actually, because I've never worked in a large corporate before, so I would imagine that it's not like people are going into Slack saying, I'm leaving, guys, bye. It's like people are
No.
waking up, going into their machine, logging into their machine and getting told, you're gone. And then automatically everything's deactivated.
Most people
So
lose
if you
access
are
as soon as
somebody,
they know.
yeah, so like unless me and you have a personal relationship where I have your number or we're in a WhatsApp group or an iMessage group and you could text me, people are
Yeah,
just vanishing like ghosts. It literally is like
100%.
landed a Walking Dead where it's like, where's so-and-so? Like,
100%.
yeah, the zombies got them. Like they're gone. Like, and so,
Literally.
yeah, so I think this is a spasm of a spasm of we need security. I want to know like who's
Yes,
gone. I want to feel like I have some understanding of what's going on in this company. Like,
for
and
sure.
yeah, you're right. It probably is a flaw of the organization. Yeah, I remember when I had an employee who left and they had
Yeah.
given their resignation, and I said, okay, I just went on a Slack. I said, okay, this person's left. They left quite quickly.
Mm.
I think I had a call with like 2-3 other employees that were just filled with anxiety. They were like, "Are we doing layoffs?
Mm.
What's going
Yeah.
on? Like this person just left." I was like, "No, they left of their own free, volition. It had
Yeah,
nothing to
yeah.
do with the health of the company." But I realized then, like, how employees perceive these things. When people just when people
Course.
disappear, it's like, what about me? Like,
You'll
anyways,
project the worst onto a vacuum of information. Always. That's human nature.
completely. So over communicate. That's the lesson. If you want to pay
For
us, Techish
sure.
Corporate Consulting, over communicate.
Here we
Okay, cool.
go.
Patreon time. We got to talk about it. Epstein files.
Patreon,
We're gonna talk about the Epstein
subscribe,
files,
and pay.
and I want to talk
And the
about.
big fat secret, but you only find out if you're subscribed.
We've hacked into the Epstein files and we can reveal. I'm joking now. Yeah, we're going to discuss that. And then also I want to talk about how Glorilla, the rapper, is basically facing criticism because she's not supporting her family adequately. And I want to talk about the black tax
Classic.
and, what do you owe people if you have a modicum of success. Okay, cool. That's this episode of Techish, long one. If you are not subscribed to our Patreon, it's $5 a month to get extra access. There was a whole extra 20 minutes in this episode. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next week. Peace. Bye.
Bye.
Epstein files. This guy. A fresh batch of 16,000 emails have dropped, and essentially it's kind of a free-for-all now. People are finding their favorite celebrities in there, like Peter Attia, who's a health longevity doctor who has blown up across all the kind of podcasts, Joe Rogan, whatever. If you're into the longevity space, he is one of the main guys. And he is all in those emails just slobbering over Jeffrey Epstein. To watch the full episode, subscribe at patreon.com/techish. You'll get access to all full-length episodes, no adverts, the chance to submit your questions into the show, and early bird discounted tickets to our live shows. Subscribe for as little as $5 a month.